Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio Saturday College Basketball Net Profit Show. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack. We'll have Maxwell Smart in the second hour, ready to break down the card. We got a treat for you today. March Madness, of course, well underway. We're into the second round now. We're going to give you not just previews of today's games in the tournament. We're going to talk tomorrow's games as well, because there is no show tomorrow. Max and Connor will be back on Monday. But no show tomorrow. So I decided, you know what, let's talk tomorrow's games as well. So we'll do Saturday and Sunday, the entire round of 32, the entire second round here on today's show. So, Connor, it's been a great tournament so far. Lots of excitement, lots of upsets, lots of parity. Like I said, I thought the gap between the mid-majors, the smaller conference schools, and the power conference teams were less than they've ever been before. And I think we've definitely seen that here these first couple days. It's been an exciting tournament overall. And we're going to talk about some teams that pulled some mammoth upsets on Thursday. New Mexico State playing today. The St. Peter's Peacocks have another amazing game in them after a stunning upset over Kentucky. It's been a fun tournament, Connor, these first 2 days.
Yeah, it's been good. I think it's been kind of the top teams, other than Kentucky going down, which we'll get into St. Peter's later. The top teams have covered pretty well, the top seeds. But yeah, after that, when you start to get to the 3, 4, 5 seeds, we've seen the upset, the 5-12, the 4-13. And so yeah, another early morning where favorites kind of ruled, and then late night was good. And I saw you were on Iowa State, and I went LSU, as the way Iowa State had played the last month of the year really had me in doubt, especially their scoring. But they played their defense like they do, and they made enough shots. But other than that, it was a good day. Notre Dame took care of business. And Colgate, those teams hung on. Chattanooga. Yeah, go ahead.
I said, I know you like Notre Dame. I heard it from Jimmy when I was on the show with him yesterday. He said that Conor liked Notre Dame against Rutgers, and he said if they beat Rutgers, he thought he'd be backing them again against Alabama. And that they put Alabama out of their misery. Just a horrendous, disappointing, massive underachievement for Alabama this year.
Yeah, man. The hot seat's got to be a little hot there for Nate Oates. He's got to get this team better. They just got to, when you can't shoot the three, you got to not shoot the three so much. So, yeah. And play team basketball. But it is how it is. But I can't wait let's get it today. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, let's get to it. We'll start with North Carolina and Baylor. This is the first game, 10 p.m. Eastern time. At Dickies Arena, Fort Worth, Texas. Baylor 5.5 point not home favorite, 5.5 point favorites. 148.5, 149 the total in this game. Baylor rolling through Norfolk State in their first game. Not totally unexpected. I don't think it was a great matchup for Norfolk State anyway. A very limited offensive team. It's going to be tough and we're talking a MEAC school. MEAC and SWAC in particular, those two conferences are about as weak as it gets from a mid-major standpoint. They just don't recruit the best talent, the highest level recruits. They just don't. And when they play a team like a Baylor, they tend to end up struggling, no question about that. So I'm kind of going back and forth here because there was a lot to like from North Carolina. And outside of one game where they struggled in the ACC tournament, they bowed out to Virginia Tech. This team's played very good basketball for about a couple of weeks now under Hubert Davis. They played extremely well. It's intriguing, in my opinion, getting points with them. The one thing that's kind of holding me back is I lean North Carolina here. I like the way the way Baycott's playing, Leaky Black. I like the way they're going offensively. I think defensively, what they did against Marquette was impressive. They shut that team down completely. And the one thing about Baylor that's still concerning is offensively, who do they go to consistently at that end of the floor? The one thing that's holding me back is how impressive the Big 12 Conference as a whole has been so far in the NCAA tournament. I believe they've won and covered every game, every Big 12 team so far. And that has been they've looked like arguably the best conference so far, at least through the first round anyway, here in the NCAA tournament. And Baylor did wipe the floor with Norfolk State, but this is in Norfolk State today, and North Carolina is playing well. I'll probably have a bet on it. It won't be best bet material, but I'm leaning to the points here with the Tar Heels, even with this game being in Fort Worth and Baylor's own home state. What do you think here, Connor? Good one to start the day. It really is North Carolina, Baylor.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I had this kind of lined right where it's at. 5, 6 points. I think Baylor still is the better team. I know with Cryer out, I think they still play such good defense, and they hold teams down, especially that shoot the three well, and that's North Carolina. I always talk North Carolina. They're kind of like Michigan this year, obviously, and they're playing better, a little bit better right now. But North Carolina, it goes by Manic, Bacot down below, and kind of Love. It's those three guys. They all average about 15 points or more, um, and they get the job done for North Carolina. It's just difficult for me. I go with the points here, and obviously North Carolina has been an over team, but Baylor could really grind this game. We talk about it early in the morning. The unders came through yesterday in some of those games early. So the total's difficult here at 150 this early start. For some reason, I see Baylor winning. I don't know if they cover this number. Obviously, I'm a big Baylor backer. The last couple of years, this could be a difficult time. And this North Carolina team, obviously college basketball, these kids always have bad days, bad nights, bad shooting, blah, blah, blah. But with them, it was just so up and down throughout the year. But they definitely have the talent. And I think, this might be just too many points here, right around 5.5.
Yeah, that, definitely. If I'm betting this game, I'm looking at the Tar Heels here in this one. It's also important to note too. Yeah, Manic's been great. Manic's played Baylor a lot because remember he was an Oklahoma transfer, so he knows what to expect from Baylor. I think that's kind of a nice little advantage here, having a guy that played in the Big 12 for so long, and he's playing well too. Brady Manic, terrific down the stretch for North Carolina. Yeah, obviously, look, they crushed Marquette on the glass, absolutely destroyed Marquette on the boards in that victory. And when you look at it here, I look at this situation with the offensive rebounding is always so good, Connor, for North Carolina, 88th in the country offensive rebounding, second in defensive rebounding. And the thing is, they can thwart Baylor in terms of offensive rebounding. Baylor's an elite offensive rebounding team, but North Carolina's an elite and maybe even better defensive rebounding team. So I think, you know what, when you're looking on the glass, there's ways North Carolina can win that battle, kind of like with Houston last night against UAB, and I underestimated that because I took UAB. Houston just got every second and third chance. I mean, they just killed UAB.
They were scoring everywhere. Dude, yeah.
And that was frustrating to watch. I'm like, man, they're playing good initial defense, but do you know how backbreaking it is when you're giving up the offensive rebound constantly over and over and over again? Baylor kind of thrives on that too, but North Carolina could take that away because they're second in defensive rebounding. And then you counter that on the other side of the court. North Carolina, Connor, 88th in offensive rebounding in the country. Rebound percentage. Baylor's only 209th in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. So this could be a spot where North Carolina, Baylor plays that great initial on-ball defense, gets the stop, and there's North Carolina getting a layup or putback because they get a second chance because they bang the offensive glass and get another opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. That is key because you talked about Baylor's so good, their defensive three-point, even from inside, and they're a great team at forcing turnovers and kind of fouling minimum. They're not one of these teams that, fouling all the time. So just great defensive team in Baylor. So man, should be a good one here early. I didn't want North Carolina to give a no-show, which they had done. I've watched it 2 or 3 times this year, and it's been really deflating. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. So it's a lean for me as well. I think I'm just gonna watch this one. Maybe live bet. A lot of these for me are gonna be live here today. I think instead of going for something before the game.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, look, Scott Drew. He's no longer. I'm no longer going to criticize this guy because for years I said he's kind of overrated. But look, he's won a national title now. We got this team playing well right now at the moment without Cryer and Chamwa Chachua. I'm amazed that they're still playing pretty well, but they're going to be challenged here. Like this is a huge difference from Norfolk State, and even without the one thing about Baylor without these two guys is they've struggled to cover numbers down the stretch, especially when they've been favored. It's been difficult for them to win games against quality opposition by margin, and that's what they're going to have to do today if they're going to beat North Carolina. All right, next up, we've got Creighton, Kansas, also in Fort Worth. Kansas, 11.5, 12-point favorites, 140 the total. I think this is the end of the road for Creighton. They basically stole one against San Diego State because the Aztecs gagged down the stretch, and they failed. They went cold offensively. You got their best player, Matt Bradley, missing free throws down the stretch. I mean, it was basically Creighton just, stealing one that they didn't deserve, as far as I'm concerned. They were outplayed most of that game against the Aztecs. Now, look, the one thing about Creighton, Connor, is they're freaking resilient and they're tough. What they've done here without Ryan Nembhard, their point guard, I thought that injury was going to crush them, that injury, being without their point guard. Instead, they found a way to make do without him. They obviously went to the Big East Tournament Championship, lost to Villanova, but they covered every game in that tournament. They came back to win and cover against San Diego State. Maybe we're selling this team short, but, I think at some point, the Nembhard injury, it's going to be impossible for them to overcome it. And now not only do you not have him here today, Ryan Kalkbrenner suffered a gruesome injury the other day against San Diego State. Terrible. You could tell it was bad. He's out for the season now with a lower body injury for Creighton. And now when I think about this matchup, without their starting point guard, without one of their best bigs, maybe their best big, I think he is, Kalkbrenner as well now for Creighton, how the hell are they going to contain Kansas in the paint area? How the hell are you going to deal with David McCormick and company in that paint? I think that's going to be a problem now for Creighton. So without your starting point guard, and now you're also talking about being down on one of your best front court players, that's going to be a problem. Good luck handling David McCormick. Good luck handling Jalen Wilson. I think that's going to be a challenge right now for Creighton, not only at the defensive end, but also offensively. Where are the points going to come from here in this game with, your starting point guard and a guy that plays good at both ends in the front court, Kalkbrenner being out. So, look, is it a bargain on Kansas? No, but for me, Connor, I don't know about you, but this is favored or pass for me. I'd only be looking to lay it here with Kansas. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a lot of points, and this is good for Kansas because they're playing their best basketball, right now, which I couldn't say that early on in the year, especially on the road or even on a neutral floor. Let's see if they can, maybe get to the Final Four. The big man out's so big here with him gone. They played so good, but his size at 7 foot, he did so much. They were so good defensively, too. They were winning games, low scoring, keeping it in the 60s, and they shoot it well. Today, you'd have to just go on a bunch of heart because they're only going to go about 6 deep. My guy Jake Kaiser here in the chat, he knows Creighton enough. Ryan Hawkins would have to be huge.
And an overtime game. And 2 games in 3 days. Watch those teams that have a thin bench on a day like this. Now you're playing your second tournament game in 3 days. This is often where it shows up in your legs and you hit a wall.
Yeah. So the Kamula's he's going to probably play. All these guys are just going to play almost the whole game. They're going to have a few guys that didn't play much all year. Faisal, whatever the guy is, he doesn't play much. He's going to have to play minutes today. So it's not going to be easy for them. For some reason, this is a buttload of points. I want to take Creighton, but I think they're just going to be outmatched like you talked about. They're just not – the depth isn't there. There's one thing with Nembhard out, we thought that could be a real problem. But with the big man, that helped him out so much defensively. It alters shots, the rebounds, the glass. And now with him gone, it's going to be rough. But you never know. Don't count him out. But, this is a stay off for me here. And initially, if he was in, I'd like this under. But without the big man there, I don't know how well they play defensively with this total. So it's one I'm going to watch as well. Maybe a live bet here.
All right, so very good. We'll see how it goes. Creighton's gritty. That's the one thing I will not accuse this team of is their guts, their resilience.
Wait, let me cut you off here before I let you talk. Sorry, to Maxwell Smart. He can jump in here. It's not a huge loss, but they have no depth. Max, I mean, he scores 13 and 7. He's their only real big guy that does anything for them. So I disagree, but I think, they're a resilient group.
All I see is that guy getting his nose dirty and crashing the glass and keeping plays alive and getting those second loose balls. And he did that a lot down the stretch. So, maybe he's shooting. He's got flaws. He's not obviously a big time NBA prospect or anything, but definitely he's maxed out his whatever talent and ability he's maxed it out because I think he's definitely been made an impact when he's been in there. Going back to the Big East tournament, he played very well there as well.
Yeah, so it won't be easy. We'll see.
No.
This team's got a lot of heart, and you're getting double digits. So I could see both ways here.
Yeah. I'm going to go the way of Kansas, but Creighton's never going to give up. We've seen it enough now. Hell, the reason they almost beat Villanova too, the Big East championship, it's because they didn't give up in that game, and they were trailing most of it. But give them credit for that. But I think they'll be in tough today. All right, next up we've got Michigan, Tennessee. We've got the Vols 6.5-point favorites, 136 the total in this game. I would be probably reluctant to fade Tennessee here, but at the same time, do I want to lay it with Tennessee? Probably not. I probably don't expect to be involved in the side for this game at the very least. Look, Michigan, they ran past Colorado State in the second half. I mean, it was a slow start for them. It was a bad start. Defensively, they were actually pretty awful in the first half. But, boy, they shored that up, and they got rolling offensively in the second half of that game. And, look, you're going to give me a box score where Eli Brooks gives me 16 points, Caleb Houston 13, Hunter Dickinson has 21 points to go with 6 boards, and Frankie Collins 14 points. If you're going to give me that kind of box score with that kind of balance, that kind of production, I'm going to say Michigan, with the defense that Michigan showed in the second half, they're capable of hanging with and beating anybody. But you don't get that every single game from Michigan. That's the problem. And turnover still can be a little bit of an issue. And the one thing about Tennessee is just ask Longwood. Now, Michigan's obviously not Longwood, but, they forced a ton of mistakes with the basketball from Longwood, and Michigan can still get careless with the basketball at times. So that does concern me a little bit here against Tennessee. And Tennessee now has an offense. I think we figured that out this year. This is not that same Tennessee team where it struggles to score for extended stretches and has to rely completely on their defense. No. This is a Vols team that, 5 people had scored in double figures against Longwood. They've been very, very impressive. Santiago Vescovi was absolutely outstanding against Longwood from long distance. Kennedy Chandler, outstanding offensive player for them as well. I mean, they've got a ton of weapons that they can throw out there. And Michigan had the schedule in their favor. They had the location in their favor. I think they had the spot kind of in their favor as well. In that first game against Colorado State. Colorado State's got to play, 10 a.m. local time on Thursday. There are a lot of things that added up for Michigan in that game, and they took advantage of it. But I don't know they're better than Tennessee right now, the way the Vols have been playing. Let's give the Vols credit. Down the stretch, they've been very good. They beat Auburn. They beat Arkansas, which is tough to do. They beat Kentucky in the SEC tournament. They won the SEC tournament, of course, and then, of course, just absolutely smashed Longwood 88-56. They're playing well right now in this game. So I think Tennessee wins. Do I want to lay 6.5? I'm kind of on the fence. I probably won't. As far as the total goes, we'll see. I keep thinking with Tennessee, and I look at their recent games, there is a little bit of value over, and Michigan's not a team I'm rushing to bet under because their defense is just so helter-skelter. And, as much as they played well defensively second half against Colorado State, if they play the way they did defensively first half against Colorado State, this game is going to go over the total because Tennessee is going to scorch them if they are giving up wide open, uncontested looks the way they did in the first half. So, and the total's reasonable. It could be close, which means you could get scramble points late in the game. So we'll see. I'm leaning a little bit to the over. Do I love it? No, but I'd lean to the over with where the number is right now, 136. And Michigan has trended over down the stretch. Connor, what do you think here, Wolverines and Vols?
Yeah, they have. I think it was more Colorado State just getting ice cold, missing shots, missing some easy ones as well. Man, it's just funny to see this Michigan team. Can they step up here and this be a really tight game? Yeah, I think you just got to keep giving it to Hunter Dickinson. Brooks has got to be huge. Houston hit some big threes in that second half when they were down to Colorado State. Tennessee's defense has just been unreal. You know what? I just got to keep watching it another time, with Rick Barnes, because I always have that effect I bring up with him kind of losing when he's had some really good Tennessee teams, even going back to Texas, that would fold. I know there was Longwood. I talked about how they had beat up on teams like that all year, though. Presbyterian, Tennessee Tech, they beat those teams by 30. seemed like anytime they played them, they won by 30. I think this one will be tough for them. Chandler's great. Bunch of guys that can score for Tennessee. Tennessee wins. I don't know if you want to lay the 6. I'm not much into teasing, but maybe bring this number down a little bit. I think they do get the win. And what's up, Big Show?
Big Show's got something to say. What's up?
What up, boys? Good luck this weekend. I just wanted to pop on and tell you I'm taking Go Blue over 65.5 team total.
All right, so there you go. Michigan team total over 60. That's a gutsy pick because Tennessee can they can play pretty good defense, and but that was a good second half. I mean, like Michigan wasn't missing against Colorado State in the second half. I was impressed. So there you go. Big Show play of the day, if you will, right here in the NCAA tournament. Michigan team total over 65.5 points. By the way, Big Show's already in San Antonio. I don't know what he's going to do there for a whole, however long he's going to be there, 2 weeks, a month. I don't know, but he's down there already, getting everything ready for us as we are about to bear down on San Antonio Thursday, Friday toward the end of the week. But Big Show apologizes for the connection in the hotel. What, a hotel connection sucks? You don't say. I'm stunned by that. I can't believe it. Bad connection in the hotel. I can't believe I'm hearing such a thing. Anyway, next up we've got Richmond and Providence. Providence 3-point favorites, 134.5 the total. So this is becoming Providence against the world, certainly against the betting world right now, because everybody thinks this team's lucky. Everybody thinks this team is just, a little bit fortuitous to get to this point. I don't know. I see a team that shut down a very good offense in South Dakota State in their last game, 66-57. That game was very simple. Their defense shut down South Dakota State, and they made South Dakota State play a half-court game. And South Dakota State does not want to do that. And they are not comfortable doing that. They don't like doing that. And Providence imposed their will and their pace on South Dakota State, and they had no answers. They had no answers whatsoever. They kept everybody in check for the most part. You look at these shooting percentages, 39% overall for South Dakota State, 30% from three-point range. Shireman and Doug Wilson in particular, they never really let those two players get comfortable for the Jackrabbits in that game. Providence, a very solid win. Now we're going to see how they do here in this one against a Richmond team that's playing with house money right now, Connor. And I understand that Providence has clearly been undervalued for a long time, but this Richmond team has got something going right now, dating back to the A-10 tournament. They needed to win out in the A-10 tournament to get to the NCAA tournament. They did that. They just took down a pretty good Iowa team that had been playing extremely well down the stretch, 67-63. And don't forget that this Richmond team is loaded with upperclassmen, loaded with experience when you're talking about the likes of Grant Golden and Jacob Gilliard and Tyler Burton. It's a very experienced group, lots of seniors, and they've got serious momentum that I'm not willing to step in front of right now. I'd take Richmond before Providence, and this is not me saying, oh, Providence is lucky. I'm fading Providence because they're lucky. They're frauds. They're not. Stop it. Knock it off. They find ways to win. They have found ways to win. Their defense has been good. They're a well-coached team by Ed Cooley. That's not the reason I'm going against Providence here. I believe this team's capable of winning this game, certainly. But this is some serious momentum with Richmond. Richmond is now playing like the team I thought they would most of the season, which at times they didn't. They look so disjointed, so pathetic at times. I remember them getting run out at VCU during the regular season. I'm like, what the hell's going on with this Richmond team? They should be a lot better than this. Well, finally, they found it. It took them a hell of a long time to find it, but finally they have found their game. They're getting points. Richmond or pass for me. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, it seems like Richmond's just found this. And G. Martinez just put it in the chat. This is what I was going to bring up. I lean under here. This team has all of a sudden become so good defensively and kind of learned to play games in the 60s, where in years past with this group with Burton, you talked about, and Gilliard, they were kind of up and down, lackadaisical, especially in second halves the last few years. They've played great. I like the under here a little bit better. I think this is a close game. I think Providence wins, but laying the 3, I just don't love. But with Durham back, Obviously, Nate Watson, I love him down below the big man. And Bynum, I think Providence wins this one in a close one, but I like the under a little bit better. I think Richmond's kind of found a formula, slow down the Zell they want to play and really play good defense, team defense, and keep it low. So I like the under here.
Yeah, and this game too, Richmond's not going to be thrown off or flustered by the pace that Providence wants to play at. South Dakota State was flustered by it. Richmond won't be. Richmond wants to play this way too. They've slowed it down greatly this year under Chris Mooney, especially down the stretch where they've played this better defense. So I think it's I think this has definitely got buzzer beater potential in it. I think it's going to be tight game pretty much all the way. And if you can get 3-3, I got 3.5 with Richmond when I placed a small bet on them earlier. And I'll probably add a little bit more, but it's down to 3 now. I'm even seeing 2.5. So some early money at least coming in here on the Spiders in this one. All right, St. Mary's and UCLA. UCLA 3-point favorites here, 126 the total in this game. UCLA, now is this buy low on UCLA because they struggled to get past Akron and St. Mary's blew out Indiana, a Big Ten team? Are you now getting a discount on UCLA? Or is this St. Mary's team legit and capable now of continuing their run here in the NCAA tournament? That ends up being the big question going into this game. A UCLA team that, remember, got to the Final Four last year, brings back a lot of those same players from that group. Your Johnny Juzangs, your Tiger Campbells, your Jaime Jaquez, all these guys. They were all on that team that went, to the Final Four last year. They're all back this year. Now, or St. Mary's keep this up because, they just took apart Indiana. However, huge situational edges for St. Mary's. Indiana had to play in the first 4. Then they had to travel out to the West Coast to Portland, Oregon, the Moda Center, where it was, pretty solid St. Mary's contingent. And look, it was just a bad situation. But you can't underestimate how good defensively St. Mary's was. 34% shooting from Indiana, 20% from 3-point range. They held Trace Jackson Davis in check, TJD, 12 points, and nobody else really did much of anything after that for Indiana. This team plays serious defense. There's no question under Randy Bennett. And look, I thought for them, in terms of the compilation of their roster, I thought there's been better teams in the past for St. Mary's. But I'll tell you what, a lot of these players are playing well down the stretch when you talk about Alex Dukas, Logan Johnson, Tommy Kuzi. These are guys that really played their best down the stretch for the Gales, and they've carried it over here into the NCAA tournament, at least through one game. This is a great game. I don't have a strong feel for it. I do think it's point spread value a little bit on UCLA, because if UCLA blows out Akron, I'm telling you right now, they're laying 5 in this game, not 2.5 or 3. They're laying a bit more, but they struggled with the Zips, although the Zips were riding a wave of momentum. And, John Gross, a good coach there. That team played terrific down the stretch in the MAC, great in the MAC tournament, beating some good teams as well to do it. UCLA had their scare, survived it, and you always worry with a quality, experienced veteran group like this, Connor. They have their scare in the previous game, and they're a whole lot better in the next game. Maybe that's the case for the Bruins here. I lean UCLA because I do think St. Mary's, look, they took advantage of some things that worked in their favor against Indiana, things that aren't going to be quite as advantageous for them here. And there's going to be way more Bruins faithful, turning out for this game compared to Indiana in the last game now, with this being in Portland. So the lean's UCLA, but I don't want to run the risk of selling St. Mary's short. I lean under too, by the way. I think low scoring game here. UCLA is capable of playing defense as well. They don't mind playing slow. And St. Mary's doesn't want to run up and down the court with UCLA. So the under might be the total way to go here in this one. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, that's how I'd look here in this game, would be the under. You talked about it, UCLA. I was worried about that first game, and they really needed it, obviously, the last 2 minutes to beat Akron there. It was kind of a last play. I thought a lot of people liked it, but I thought it was way too many points. And Akron played well defensively. I think UCLA in the end is just better, and I like the St. Mary's team. Both teams pretty good. Don't turn the ball over. They don't foul. Very good. Somebody in the chat, G. Martinez, said, yeah, I've seen it too. And St. Mary's gives up about 35% their opponents from 3. So if UCLA can get hot from 3, they defend well, better inside, but not there. All these guys coming back, I think UCLA wins a close one. And yeah, I'd only look under as well. I think this could be real slugfest, maybe. But I got to lean Bruins with this team. I think they can get by here today. I think if they have a problem, it's down the road here, maybe in the next one or the Elite Eight. So I like Bruins as well.
All right, leaning Bruins, leaning under in this one. All right, next up we've got St. Peter's and Murray State. Well, Murray State, we're not surprised they're here. They were the higher seed. They were a slight favorite against San Francisco. St. Peter's, obviously, we're shocked that they're here. We're stunned that they beat Kentucky. Murray State, 8.5, 9-point favorites, 130. So these big double-digit seeds that pull a massive upset, there's that long-term thought process that a lot of bettors have that, the second game and letdown after the big upset for St. Peter's in this case. Big letdown. I often don't find that happens. I find the letdown for these double-digit seeds, do you know when it happens? It happens in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight, if they get that far. That's when I find the letdown happens. I find in that second game after the big upset win in the first round, they may not win the game in that second round, but I find that their level of play is still pretty strong and they don't have that letdown. And let's be honest, St. Peter's, whenever they're an underdog, I'm not looking to bet against them when they're getting points of this magnitude. I'm just not. This is St. Peter's. They're going to drag this game down into the mud. They're going to slow the thing down, half court. They have a terrific defense. They do. And it's now not just a case of the Metro Atlantic, which people, they shit on the Metro Atlantic. Let's be honest. A lot of people shit on the Metro Atlantic. And look, I understand why they do that. People look at it and see they're a weaker conference. They've had a terrible track record in the NCAA tournament, but this is a different team, St. Peter's. They've got a street toughness to them, they don't mind playing a street fight style of basketball. Shaheen Holloway is a great coach. He's a winner as a college player as well. Back in his Seton Hall days when he played. This St. Peter's team, has definitely got a terrific defense. Now, they're not going to shoot like they did against Kentucky, but they can hang around a game like this against Murray State with their defense alone. And they've always been a team that when they're catching points, I'm interested. And how are you going to debate their record away from home? ATS this year, 10-4 against the number away from home this year for St. Peter's in this game. Look, Murray State, everybody knows this win streak of theirs has been incredible for Murray State, 31-2. But still, they needed overtime to beat San Francisco in that game. You're now laying a premium on Murray State every single game because of this win streak that they're on right now. To me, the bargain team is St. Peter's here. It ain't Murray State. Murray State's been power rated highly for a while. Murray State's only 2-4 ATS their last 6 games. So that exactly goes to show you that, they're power rated too high right now. Everybody sees the streak. Everybody knows they've 31 win team. And as a result, there's no bargains on Murray State right now. Great team. Tevin Brown, KJ Williams, Justice Hill, terrific basketball team. Good at both ends of the floor. But this is a tough, physical, resilient St. Peter's team. And now they've figured out how to score the basketball down the stretch too. Their offense has played better. And it's certainly, I was amazed how well they played against Kentucky at the offensive end of the floor. Daryl Banks was terrific. They got key contributions at key times from Ndefo. Doug Eddard was just amazing with multiple critical shots in that game. We'll see how it goes here. But I think with defense alone, they're obviously not going to shoot the way they did against Kentucky. But this is a team that all they do when they're catching points is they hang around in games. They rely on the defense. They crash the glass. They're a very tough team inside in terms of battling on the boards. That's something Murray State has to contend with. It's just too many points. And you've got a team that's been undervalued, covering numbers down the stretch, versus a team that's been overvalued and failing to cover numbers. And let's be honest, they just barely got past San Francisco in that last game. So I like St. Peter's here, plus 8.5, plus 9 in this game. They're also the better free throw shooting team. Last 5 games, St. Peter's 72% from the free throw line compared to under 70 for Murray State. So that definitely could be a factor here to consider. But mentally tough, physically tough, resilient bunch, and a well-coached bunch, St. Peter's, that plays defense, that's getting big points. I like the Peacocks. Connor, what do you think, St. Peter's, Murray State?
Yeah, Will, I think this line's right, but I think it's too many as well. And I really like this Murray State team. I loved them against San Francisco, and that was a sweat. They had the lead, then gave it up, went to OT, then ended up covering the number. And obviously, St. Peter's shot it well, and Kentucky had a horrible shooting, night. You go through all that, all those stats and the shot quality, all those things. But one thing, St. Peter's loves to play slow, to stay in games. This team's just kind of going right now. I think Murray State might win this game, but I got to take the points. I just can't. They're 8-0 ATS. You talked about the record on the road. I just think they bring this one kind of to a halt. And it's a whole bunch of, no-name guys. This is a group of guys. The highest score, Banks, averages 11.5. This is a bunch of guys that average 6 to 11 points here that, go 7 or 8 deep. But they're feisty and they play good defense. Obviously, Murray State has a little bit the more talent. I think they win this, but almost at 10 here at 9. I'm going to take the Peacocks as well. I'm going to ride one more time. I don't know if they win, but I think they can keep this tight against Murray State.
All right, we have New Mexico State and Arkansas next up. 2 games left, by the way, for Saturday in round of 32 action. In this game, it's Arkansas 6.5-point favorites, 138.5 the total. This is in KeyBank Center in Buffalo. This game, we'll see how it goes, but should be a good matchup. New Mexico State, big upset for them over UConn, 70-63 in the first round. I was impressed definitely with what we saw from New Mexico State in that game. And of course, it all revolves around Teddy Allen, who is just absolutely terrific. Chris Jans, definitely a coach that's done good things here with New Mexico State, but definitely Teddy Allen was very good in that game against Arkansas. We'll see if he has the hot hand again here in this one against Arkansas. The Razorbacks, look, they survived a very good Vermont team. A lot of people had Vermont as their trendy upset pick, but Arkansas, very strong in terms of their good defending, the three-pointer. They protect the rim well. You look at it, they're a very solid defensive team. And Jalen Williams, of course, if it can really be an impact inside. JD Note, it's definitely an Arkansas team that, I like them at tournament time. I like Eric Musselman usually at tournament time. But do I want to sell New Mexico State short again? Because, look, I laid the points with UConn, and obviously that was a grave mistake. I thought UConn was ready to make a run, and I thought the WAC was kind of whack this year. The WAC conference, I don't think it was quite as strong, I thought, as it's been in other seasons. But look, New Mexico State played one hell of a game. I don't know if I want to sell this team short, but I know for a fact when it comes to Arkansas right now, I ain't looking to step in front of them because I think Arkansas, I've got a future on Arkansas, plus 6,000, 60-1 to win the NCAA tournament. I think they could make a deep run. I would look over the total, if anything, in this game. 7 straight overs for Arkansas. New Mexico State doesn't want to speed this game up. They don't want to get in a run and gun style. They don't play at a fast pace, but they got to 133 total points in their game against UConn, and UConn is a dreadful offensive team at times, and they don't play fast at all, UConn, and that game still somehow managed its way into the 130s with 133 points in that game. This total is only 138, 138.5. With Arkansas's over streak that they're on, I'd lean to the over here in this game. That's probably the way I'd play it before the side, but lean Arkansas. I'm not stepping in front of Arkansas, but I'm willing to give New Mexico State a little credit for what they did. But I think it's going to be much tougher here against Arkansas tonight in this game. What do you think here, Connor, with the Aggies and the Razorbacks?
Yeah, that game the other day with Vermont. I mean, talk about just Arkansas drew a bunch of fouls, but so did Vermont. Whoever the refs were in that game, don't have them again. God damn. It was everybody got touched, got fouled in that one. And they won by 4. I was on the show the other day, and I just said, I want a 4 here, and there was no 4 that ever came up. So that hurt. Yeah, can Allen score that again? Probably not. Rice needs to be really big. One thing I like, this could get over. You talk about the foul, but I love how New Mexico State plays such great defense, team defense, and this team is great on the boards. I know this New Mexico State team, top 40 in the country. I think they bang the glass here as much as I like Arkansas, and they could win by 10 or more. I got to take the value here and take the points with New Mexico State. I don't know if I get a 7. I'm just going to wait 6.5 basically everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like the points here with New Mexico State.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Bart Torvik website. Great, invaluable resource for me. For college basketball, they've got 140 as the total in this. So it speaks to what I said. I think there's value on the over, and you know what I think is also key. I think Arkansas is going to get this game more at their pace. Where they want to push it, they want to feast in transition. And one thing that concerns me greatly about New Mexico State, Connor Mack, 305th in the country offensive turnover percentage. That's bad. That's bad. That's really, and in this matchup against that pressure style, that full court pressure, that forced turnover style that Musselman and Arkansas has, that is trouble potentially for New Mexico State. They don't handle the basketball and take care of it all that well.
That's true. You have a good point to that. But I heard it from a shitload of people right in this chat who told me, oh, come on, UConn's going to roll New Mexico State, Connor. You're overthinking it. You're blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, Arkansas, they are more talented. It was just like the other day when we were talking about it with Cole. They had the better. But I'll take the points here. Arkansas might win, but I want the points in my back pocket here.
You know what I might do, and this is what I like to do when I'm not comfortable laying the points with a team, but I kind of lean with them. Go the team total route instead.
Yeah.
So I might do that with Arkansas. Team total over 72 is their team total right now. I think they can eclipse that, to be quite honest, because the more I'm looking at, and Jeffrey's right, I think they could get over that number. It's staring me right in the face that they have not been able to avoid turnovers offensively, New Mexico State. And if that's going to happen tonight against Arkansas, that is the perfect recipe for trouble for New Mexico State, because that's exactly what Arkansas loves to do. And we'll see if they can capitalize on that. So again, we're going by full season numbers. Maybe this is going to be one of those days where New Mexico State's going to take care of the ball. They're not going to have, 13, 14 turnovers in a game, but that has been an issue for them all season. We'll see if Arkansas can capitalize on it. All right, final game for Saturday, Connor Mack. It is Memphis and Gonzaga. What a way to end the Saturday. We get this game to wrap it all up. Gonzaga, 9.5, 10-point favorites, 154.5 the total. The total's already gone up from 152, and I agree. I think this is a track meet. Get your track shoes on. I think that's what this game's going to be. You look at this matchup here. I want to point out a couple of things. Now, Memphis, look, very impressive against Boise, although they kind of sputtered down the stretch. And, they didn't exactly close that game well. Here's the problem, and I'm going to speak to that same problem here for Memphis. Their turnover rate at both ends of the floor, defensively and especially offensively, it's horrendous. It's awful, all right? Memphis treats the basketball like a hand grenade at times. And just like we talked about how New Mexico State's had trouble holding on to the ball and trouble with turnovers, or committing too many turnovers, and how that could be bad against the kind of style Arkansas plays, that could be bad for Memphis with the style Gonzaga plays. You turn the ball over against them, you're fetching the ball out of your own basket when you play Gonzaga. Simple as that. I mean, and they are going to absolutely destroy you in transition with their weapons and with what they've got on the basketball court if you turn the ball over. And that continues to be a recurring theme at times for Penny Hardaway's group here with Memphis. So keep an eye on that. And if it ends up being, very easy, for Gonzaga to get those transition baskets off turnovers, it's going to be a long night for Gonzaga. That being said, Gonzaga was asleep for like over a halfway, right down to for about the first half and the first portion of the second half. They were fast asleep against Georgia State. And they played a really poor game. And all of a sudden, all it took was the big guy to get hurt for Georgia State. And all of a sudden, they went on this crazy run. 10 minutes left in the second half, and they turned a close game into a blowout. But that's a very misleading 93-72 final score. They did not play well for 30 minutes of that game, Gonzaga. So they're going to have to step it up. Memphis is going to be a bigger threat to them than Georgia State. So they're going to have to be a lot better than that in this game. Maybe a little wake-up call. Mark Few kind of said it, you're just getting into the tournament. You're maybe not sharp right away. I'd expect a better Gonzaga team, and I'm trying to look at Gonzaga's history in this tournament. I think they've had some previous tournaments, Connor Mack, where they've had a bad first game, or a sluggish, I should say, first game, and then they've turned it around and played a lot better in the second game. I think we've seen instances of that in years past in this tournament. Yeah, I'm going back a couple of years, but yeah, they had a sluggish first game a few years ago, and then all of a sudden they came back strong and won and covered decisively in the second game. So keep that in mind, and maybe it's a wake-up call here for Gonzaga. Memphis, obviously, they've got everybody on their, all hands on deck for them right now. Remember, they were dealing with massive personnel issues early in the year. They had players missing, but they've got everybody in check now. DeAndre Williams, Landers Noli, Alex Lomax, Jalen Duren, Quiones. I mean, they've got everybody now here on this Memphis team. But as far as I'm concerned, that the scary part about betting against Gonzaga here is all they need is 10 minutes where they just go on this like 18-2 run and they can put you out of your misery. That's all it takes when you play Gonzaga. And those turnover issues bother me. Those turnover issues are so glaring that there's no way I'm taking Memphis here plus the points. What I am taking is the over. I like the over. I agree with the total going up. I think Gonzaga is going to get easy baskets. Memphis is going to play with a little bit of pace as well. I mean, you're talking about teams that from a pace standpoint, Gonzaga's 4 in the country. Memphis is 39th in the country. Memphis goes up and down the court, and sometimes it ends in a turnover or a missed shot. That happens too much to them, but you're still going to get pace from them. And as a result, you're going to get a very fast-paced game. You're going to get both teams flying up and down the court. Total, even, I thought this total should have been closer to 160, kind of like the Wright State Arizona total, which was like 158 when it opened. That's where I thought this would be, but it opened 152. I thought it was way too low at 152. And even now at 154.5, I still think there's lots of value here over the total in this one. Conor, what do you think here, Memphis Gonzaga?
Yeah, this game is fascinating to me because I don't know if Memphis can put two halves together like you're talking about. I think this is good live betting, or maybe Memphis first half to see if maybe Gonzaga is a little sluggish. But I know Memphis has played well lately, and they had an unreal kind of, 10 minutes there. It just killed Boise. They came back and they cut it to 4 or 5 late, but they still lost by 10. You're right. Memphis, they turn the ball over. They're pretty good at turnovers, but Gonzaga is very good, at keeping the ball. One of the best teams in the country. I think Gonzaga, in the end, to wear them down, I think they could cover this number. And I love points. This is one, like I talked about, I think is better to live bet. I don't know what we're going to get out of Memphis. Super talented, but the turnovers, I've seen them just up and down, back and forth. Sometimes they're hot shooting, these kids. Sometimes they're really cold. They look ugly. So, yeah, difficult one for me. One I'll be looking to live bet. But if I had to, I'd lean Gonzaga in the end. I think they get it done. They won't take Memphis lightly.
All right, there we go. There's the Saturday slate. Let's go to Sunday because, again, we have no net profit show tomorrow, so we're going to talk the Sunday tournament games today. We're going to start on Sunday with Houston and Illinois. It's the first game on Sunday in Pittsburgh. We've got Houston 4.5-point favorites, 133.5 the total in this game. Man, Houston, you could have fooled me that they couldn't shoot 3-pointers at a high percentage last night. Holy shit. That's all they talked early in the basket. The one thing about Houston, I think it was Dan Bonner that said it, that the one problem for Houston is they're not a great 3-point shooting team. I think they said that in on the broadcast in the first minute against UAB. And the next thing you know, they're just raining threes left and right for the whole entire first half after that. And they end up winning 82-68. I mean, it was ridiculous. 10 of 21, 48% from 3-point range. I mean, you look at the overall season for Houston, Conor, they're shooting 34% from 3-point range. So you talk about regression. Holy mackerel. That is regression waiting to happen in the next game against Illinois here, potentially. 34% for the season and from 3, and they shot 48% from the perimeter against UAB in that victory. But they played great defense. They crashed the glass, which is, I knew that was going to be an issue for UAB, but actually UAB held their own. Houston was only a +2 margin in the rebounding. So, they actually did rebound the ball better than I thought, UAB, but give the Houston credit. Very good performance. What I'm stunned by here, Conor, is that we got Houston, and I know, Houston's playing well, but they're laying 4.5 in this game. I mean, have we soured so much on Illinois that now we got Houston laying 4.5? I mean, Illinois was just laying 7.5. Houston was just laying 8.5 to UAB. And now they're laying 4.5 here to Illinois. Illinois is going to bet. UAB's nice team, solid team. Andy Kennedy, good coach, good guy, like the job he's done. but Illinois is still better than UAB. And I know they didn't cover numbers down the stretch, and they life and death to beat Chattanooga in a horrible offensive performance. But I look at it as a positive for Illinois. Their defense suffocated Chattanooga in the second half that allowed them to, scratch and claw their way back into that game. It was a horrible game at times for Coburn. Don't be fooled by the 17 points. The eye test tells you he didn't play a good game. He's missing free throws. There were times he was a little bit soft in the paint. I didn't like seeing that. Frazier was absolutely brutal in that game, and he is too good of a player to be that poor again for 2 straight games, in my opinion. 2 points, 0 for 6 from the field. Terrible game from him. Corbello was pretty quiet, 1 of 7, 5 points, 6 turnovers, way too many turnovers from him. He's better than that. I think Illinois got a much better game in them. I think Houston, played one of their best games, and I think they got to regress a little bit. I think it's a buy low, sell high situation for me. I lean Illinois plus 4.5. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, maybe this is kind of what Illinois needs to be in this, like a dog roll to get going. But one thing, the last few years watching them, even with Kofi Coburn, they haven't played well here in the tournament. And them to get by last night was so lucky. I mean, they played horrible. The turnovers, like you talked about, ice cold shooting. Yeah, it was brutal to watch, and I think Houston could take advantage of it. Problem is, I think the line, it's 4.5. You got to pay a little premium. Houston's not very deep, but what they have, they're very good. They bang on the glass. And Illinois, nothing to this Big Ten, but I can always call them soft, and they haven't won a national title since Michigan State, right? And I don't think they're going to win one this year. We just saw Iowa go down. In the end, I think Houston wins. I just think it's just if you want to lay the 4.5 here.
All right, we got Ohio State and Villanova. Next game on Sunday in NCAA tournament action. Let's see what we've got here in terms of the point spread. It is, where the hell is it? Oh, here it is. 5.5 point favorites, Villanova, 131.5, 132 the total in this game. Villanova, early first 10 minutes or so, Delaware gave them a battle, and then they just ran Delaware right out of the arena the rest of the way. That was impressive. I didn't know Villanova had a game that dominant in them, because we haven't necessarily seen it all the time. I mean, other than Butler, this team's been in one close game after another, but boy, they had it all going yesterday. Gillespie was fantastic. Justin Moore was amazing, 21 points for him. Jermaine Samuels was a beast at both ends of the floor. Offensively, 15 points. He was great defensively. He was a mammoth on the glass for 9 rebounds. Eric Dixon gets 12 points. Caleb Daniels, 13 points. That was everybody contributing against the Delaware Blue Hens for Villanova. So I credit them a lot. Ohio State, look, I got it wrong with them yesterday. I took Loyola, and look, let's give Ohio State credit. They played well, 54-41. I don't want to take it away from them. They had a good game. These 2 big men for them were a lot more healthier than I was led to believe. Kyle Young and Zed Key. Both of them, made more of an impact, looked healthier coming off their injuries than I thought. And that was a grave concern for me going into that Loyola Chicago game. How healthy was Ohio State going to be? But those guys played well. They were healthy enough. They played well. EJ Liddell did his thing as usual, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Great game, double-double for him in the victory. But Loyola was horrendous, awful. And it started with their best player, Lucas Williamson, and it filtered all the way down to the rest of the team. They were horrendous shooting the basketball. Their offense was terrible. I mean, the ball movement was stagnant. Every time it seemed like they thought they took a shot, which they took forever to take a shot. They took a bad one, and it was like that all game long. They turned the ball over a bit. I mean, it was just very, very uncharacteristic of Loyola Chicago. It makes me think, with all due respect to Drew Valentine, maybe they missed the coaching of Porter Moser in a tournament setting more than we thought. Yeah. He is a young guy. Like, it's a live and learn experience for him, but definitely a situation where I think he. Oh shit, Max! I got to send you the link. Holy fuck! I usually do that. We'll do that right now because you're right. I'm waiting for you here, and all right, here we go. I'm sending it to you. But yeah, I mean, in this game here, when I look at the point spread, Villanova. I think Villanova could be ready to make a run. Like that was a complete performance for them. Both ends of the floor. I liked what I saw. Ohio State was good, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of it was Loyola Chicago just playing a hideous basketball game. So I'm leaning Villanova here, minus 5.5 here in this one. What do you think here, Connor Mack, Ohio State, Villanova?
Yeah, it just seems right. Has these guys, this time of year playing really well. And I like Nova a little bit, but like people said, if Ohio State, would they make 1-3 yesterday or something like that, and they still won easily. Loyola Chicago has those games, though. That's what was worrisome me in that game as a pick 'em, because I wanted 3 or 4 points. They just had one of these shitty offensive games, and they've had a couple of those throughout the year. But yeah, I like Nova, especially if they're hitting their shots. Senior Lady Gillespie. The only problem is they have trouble, when moving the ball around. It's really sometimes they just stand there. I talk about it, and they're not huge down low. So Ohio State could give them fits, but right now I just lean to Nova in this one, laying the 5.5.
All right, leaning toward Nova here, laying the points as well for Connor Mack. All right, it's hour 2 of this Saturday Net Profit Show, and that means it is time for Maxwell Smart to join us here on the Saturday edition of the Net Profit College Basketball Show. Max, how are you doing? How's the tournament been for you so far? How are things?
Tournament's been kind of difficult for me. I haven't really enjoyed betting on these games pregame, but live it's been wonderful. I love taking it to my local. His name is Gus. He's a piece of shit, and I want to have sex with his girlfriend. So it's very enjoyable when I take his money. And at the end of the day, that's my goal for this month, is to take his money.
All right, that's the goal. All right, we ran through Saturday, Max, so I'm just going to let you have the floor. Saturday NCAA tournament, at least pregame. Now, I know you're doing a lot of live bets, maybe more live bets than pregame bets right now, but as of right now, pregame, what's standing out to you for Saturday in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I'm very much doubting what I saw from Michigan in the second half versus Colorado State. I think that you're going up in weight class, you're punching at a higher weight class, and I think that Tennessee's going to have to show them early on who's top dog. I think that when you look at the reemergence of production and dominance from John Fulkerson and JoJo, I think that this is a team that can just get so much more from everybody else. When you have two competitive guards like Chandler and Ziegler who push each other every day in practice throughout the season to get to this point, this is the one time that Hunter Dickinson may be able to do it all for Michigan, but may not be enough. So I like Tennessee early, and then I'll evaluate from there.
In Tennessee early, so maybe a first half look for Max there with the Vols taking on the Wolverines. All right, Max, what else?
I think that St. Peter's is definitely going to be competitive in this game. I think that the number is too big. I've looked at a couple numbers that pointed me to more of the direction of 5.5 or 6. So there is some good value with St. Pete's. The question's going to be, can they score the basketball early on like they did versus Kentucky? Can they get that 3-point shooting from Doug Eddard, even though his mustache game is weak like a baby kitten? I think that it's a great matchup for St. Pete's because Murray State is not prone to playing these slow down type of games, and a rock fight works best for both of these teams with the rotations that they want to run out. So I do think 9 points in the tournament is too much in this particular matchup, even though I do think Murray will advance. I'm riding with my guy Cab on Baylor first half. I think that this is a Baylor team that with Flo Thamba subbing in for JTT, it really takes away some of the stuff that you really counted on with JTT. But with Sochan and Matthew Mayer being able to score from the perimeter and stretch defenses out to open up the paint, I think that Baylor is going to be able to nullify some of the size that North Carolina has early. Now, I'm not saying that Coach Davis can't make some good adjustments at halftime, but I agree with my guy Cab, and I think Baylor is going to take care of business early on. Full game, that's another story.
All right, liking the Murley, Baylor in that one. And yeah, that's the one thing that's good for Baylor going into the game. Matthew Mayer getting out of a shooting slump because he really had been struggling with his shooting stroke for many games down the stretch. And he came to, now it was Norfolk State, but He had a big game offensively for them there. And if they get him going again, it's another option and another worry for the opposing team defensively. So it was good to see, if you're Scott Drew and Baylor, to see Matt Mayer get back on track with the shooting the basketball. Was there anything else on Saturday, Max, that you liked?
Yeah, there was. I think that St. Mary's, even though I hate them and I want to literally strangle Tommy Kuzi with chicken intestines, I still think that they can pull the outright upset against UCLA. I think that it's going to involve a good start and the continuation of good shooting from St. Mary's guards. Alex Dukas and Logan Johnson can both break you off a dribble and hit a wing or corner three. That's going to be critical. And you got to be able to stay out of foul trouble and keep UCLA out of the paint, which is obviously a more difficult task than just saying it. I think that St. Mary's has some freaking underdog value today, especially at 3.
All right, liking the dog there, the Gales. This is a great proving ground game for St. Mary's, because these are usually the games where they fall short. They win and have a nice first round game, and then they're facing a better team higher up in the seeding, if you will, in the tournament. And this is usually the time of the tournament when they bow out. Let's see if they can change the script this year. St. Mary's, that's a great game, a great West Coast battle there, St. Mary's and UCLA. I'm looking forward to that for sure. All right, Max, what else have you got for Saturday?
For the NCAA tournament, that's it that I'm going to be rolling with pregame.
There we go. All right. And by the way, after we get through Sunday's NCAA tournament, we'll just throw out to Max anything that he's looking at as well in the NIT, CBI, CIT, the Basketball Classic, all those other tournaments. We'll get Max's thoughts on. I'm not betting them personally, so we'll let Max talk about those later. Actually, there's one in the NIT that I do like and probably will bet, so I'll mention that. The two games that we've talked about on Sunday, Max, Houston, Illinois, Villanova, Ohio State. What do you think there?
Yeah, I have no opinions right now on either of those two games. I haven't looked at Sundays yet.
All right, there we go. So when we ask you, Max, we'll just get initial gut feel type of things, nothing concrete. Yeah. All right. Next up, we've got Michigan State Duke for Sunday. Duke 6.5-point favorites, 145.5 the total in this one. Obviously, we're going to have to hear the media bloviate over Coach K versus Tom Izzo for the millionth time. I don't give two shits, couldn't care less. What I care about is who's going to cover, who's going to win the game. What's the matchup going to be like here between Duke and Michigan State? And when you look at it, you got Duke laying 6.5, 144.5 the total. So I got a little lucky with CS Fullerton. They made a shot with just before time expired to get the point spread cover, but I'll take it.
That was great.
That's great. Fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely. It was one of those games where if Duke had covered, you can't say for sure that would have been the right side. And with CS Fullerton covering, it's not like they were completely the right side either. It was one of those games that the margin was always around the point spread, always around the number, and it was going to be one of those coin flip games. And
Duke was better though, real quick, but I thought Fullerton, obviously defensively they couldn't hang, but I thought they, if they could have shot it better, they could have been in that game a little tighter, because I thought they moved the ball well. They just kind of got in that hole early, 15-4, and it was just on from there.
Yeah, when I saw it,
Ananowski was a beast.
Yes.
He freaking literally was the difference why they were able to keep that game not in the 20s.
Yeah, he did. He did play well in that game. He was terrific, no question, because I was obviously very, very fixated on that game. He played great for Fullerton, no question. But look, the Big West never does anything of significance usually in the NCAA tournament. That's a team that sometimes can struggle in the big dance. And so Duke's going to face a much taller task here against Michigan State. This is a tough one because I'm not exactly on the Michigan State bandwagon. I took Davidson last night against them, and some people won with Davidson. If you got +1.5, +2, you won. I'm really beating myself up about not getting the best number there with Davidson. I got +1, so I had to settle for a push there. But, those of you that got the good number, you cashed with Davidson. So I'm not really rushing to bet Michigan State, but I know for a fact I'm not laying points with Duke right now. 0-5 ATS their last 5 games. Okay, their defense played better, held Fullerton to 24 of 64. But before that, when they played someone actually good offensively, their defense had issues. There are holes all over that Blue Devil defense. I'm not laying points with them here. And the one thing about Michigan State is they got a little confidence now. And I like the way they executed down the stretch yesterday against Davidson. They got stops defensively. They made it tough. They shut off the perimeter. I got to admit, Walker with the ankle injury bothers me a little bit, and he kind of struggled. He only had 6 points in that game. It didn't look like he was at 100%. That's concerning. You're going to need him to be a whole lot more impactful on the game if you're going to get past Duke in this one. Obviously, they got great contributions from Gabe Brown, Hoggard, and of course, Joey Hauser, who's the guy that really pushed them and spearheaded them to victory. 27 points. He was all over the glass. Big free throws, clutch free throws down the stretch. He shoots 86% from the free throw line. He was great for Michigan State down the stretch. Great game here. Should be a good one. I'd lean Spartans, but I sure as hell hope Walker's in better shape physically, because if he has a box score where he's only getting 6 points and not really putting his impact on the game, it's going to be a lot tougher against Duke compared to Davidson. But I'm not laying it with Duke. It'd be Michigan State or nothing. Connor, Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to lay it with Duke either. And if Michigan State can hit their shots, because I'm not impressed with this Duke defense, I like the over here. I know it's 144. I don't love that. I wish it was 140. But I still think it could get over. As long as Michigan State's hitting some shots with that Duke defense, I think Duke will be in the high 70s. So I think that total could get over.
I agree with that. I'm not looking to bet Duke under. It's just like I'm not looking to lay points with Duke because, they're shaky defensively. It's just like the same reason I'm not looking to take Duke under right now in their totals either. Max, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking at a first half under in that game. That's pretty much it.
Good stuff. Next up, we've got Iowa State, Wisconsin. Wisconsin 4.5-point favorites, 125.5 the total in this game. I took Iowa State against LSU. And that was not so much a ringing endorsement for me of Iowa State. It was a fade of LSU and their struggles down the stretch and the coaching change, Will Wade being low. And yeah.
That was pathetic last night.
Yeah. And, Iowa State kept on down the stretch saying, hey, we don't want the game LSU. You take it. And LSU wouldn't take it. That's essentially what we saw. And Iowa State hit the big three down the stretch to really give themselves separation. And they end up hanging on for the win. Look, it's going to be a lot tougher here. And look, Wisconsin in the second half, that was an outstanding game from them. Johnny Davis came alive. Their defense suffocated Colgate. They shut off the perimeter that, really, really hurt them big in the first half against the Raiders last night. And they got better defensively. They tightened it up. They're playing close to home. Did you see that crowd last night at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee? That was a Wisconsin home game. Simple as that. I mean, it was Badger red all over the place last night for Wisconsin. So I'm fortunate with my Colgate plus the points. It got there. They got a late bucket. They didn't foul with a couple seconds left, and I'll take it. But and I'll take my win betting against Wisconsin, which I thought I'd be doing a lot in this tournament. But I don't know if I want to do it here. They're laying only 4.5. It's basically a home game. You've got to have this game power rated like it's a home game for Wisconsin, because that's essentially what you're going to get here against Iowa State. So while I bet against Wisconsin and I bet on Iowa State last night and I cashed with both, you would think I'm back on Iowa State here, right? I don't think I will be. I worry still about their offense, especially if Wisconsin plays at the level of defense they did in the second half. They're playing close to home. They're laying a smaller number here compared to the Colgate game. I'd actually lean Badgers right now. Don't know if I'll bet it, but that's the lean. Lean under as well. Connor, what do you think?
I gotta give a shout out to our guy Jake Kaiser with the $10 dono. We gotta hit up our guy, give him the support. Thanks, my guy. We appreciate it. Always donating.
Yes, we appreciate it. There we go. Thanks, Jake.
Always a great to hear that in the morning. Okay, yes. Wisconsin here. I lean with them as well. At home, Iowa State, if they bring that defense, is one thing. I think they're in, but they have to hit shots. They did enough to get by. LSU was just god awful, like you talked about. I'm just worried about them scoring as of late. Some of these outputs have been horrible. The total's pretty sharp. I mean, at 125, I think it'd stay under. That's just a lean, though.
All right, just a lean there. All right, Max. Like I said, I know your Sunday's cards not in your closest in your mind yet, but any initial thoughts here? Iowa State, Wisconsin.
Yeah, my initial thoughts with Iowa State is yes, I do expect, like Connor said, for the offense to suffer. I think that the easiest way to play them without looking at anything is taking Iowa State's first half team total under and then taking their second half team total over, because we did see elevated scoring like last night. And I do think that when you get into those situations where your season's about to end, we do see extended games. And we saw that in a number of spots yesterday.
Yep, absolutely. Ryan Kozlowski, he's asking a question here. Can you give me 20 seconds on buying points in hoops? I never do it, so I wouldn't know. And I don't recommend anybody doing it. No. The only time I would ever buy points in any sport ever is if maybe I can get there's a -6.5, -120 on a favorite in an NFL game, and I want to bet the dog, and it's +6.5, +100, and I can buy up to +7 for a reasonable price, and it'll only be -110 or -115, and I'll buy a half a point in that situation. It's the only time I'll ever buy points in any sport, and I certainly won't do it in basketball. So that's the answer to the question for me there, Ryan, but good question. Absolutely. I'm not a buying points kind of guy. All right, next up, we've got Notre Dame and Texas Tech. Texas Tech, 7.5-point favorites here, 133 the total in this game. Look, this is a tough one. I mean, Texas Tech, when they play like they did again, now it was Montana State, but their defense was just terrific. And if they're going to shoot like that, I mean, if they get anything offensively, Texas Tech in this tournament, they can be a Final Four team, seriously. That's how good they are defensively. Mark Adams has done a great job. They're not missing Chris Beard. They still are playing outstanding at that end of the floor. But if they're going to get, they're not going to score 97 against Notre Dame here. But, what I mean is if they get 20 from Shannon, they get Bryson Williams stepping up, Davion Warren giving you double figures. McCullough, of course, is going to do his thing. Kevin O'Banner, the Oral Roberts transfer. If they're going to get all of those guys contributing for Texas Tech, offensively, to go with that defense, they're going to be very difficult to stop. Now, but I don't want to sell Notre Dame short. They beat Rutgers in OT. They beat Alabama down and pretty much convincingly took that game over in the second half against the Crimson Tide. But Rutgers is flawed. Alabama was absolutely shitting the bed down the stretch, played awful. Now they're going up against Texas Tech. I think it's the end of the road for Notre Dame, but I don't want to sell this team's guts short with Lejewski can shoot the ball, Cormac Ryan, the big guy down low. I don't want to sell Notre Dame and Mike Bray's a solid coach. I don't want to sell them short, but man, this is a big step up after Rutgers and Alabama. This is a big step up for Notre Dame. I'm not sure they're ready for it, and I'm not sure I'm ready to step in front of Texas Tech here. So the lean is Red Raiders for me. Connor, Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, can they keep rolling? I mean, Ryan had a great shooting day yesterday. It just was lights out from three, especially in that first half. I mean, he had like 6 or something like that. I lean under here a little bit. I think the legs might go out with Notre Dame. Texas Tech plays great defense. One problem, they've done well this year. I've never loved laying numbers like this with them. We start stretching out 7.5, 8. We're on a neutral floor. But yeah, it should be a good one. So I have nothing here. I don't know if it's enough with Notre Dame and they might run out of gas, but I kind of like the under here, 133.
Is this the spot too where this shows up for Notre Dame? Playing Wednesday against Rutgers, overtime game, playing Friday against Alabama, now playing Sunday against Texas Tech, who, if you're playing your third game in 5 days like this, like you are if you're Notre Dame, this is where it could show up, a team that's just absolutely will grind your gears defensively like Texas Tech. And you could just hit a wall. That's a concern as well. It's a fascinating matchup, fascinating handicap, and one to analyze, that's for sure. How about you, Max? What do you think, Fighting Irish Red Raiders?
Well, listen, I think that we've seen teams make runs from the play-in games. Notre Dame is the team that's doing it this year. And I think that there is a case to be made for them at least first half, because what's been a gold mine for me has been Texas Tech's second half plays. And that includes their most recent game against Montana State, where they did cover the second half number. So I just think that for a live bet, Texas Tech second half, regardless of the score, is usually a pretty safe probability to hit. And I would say that taking Notre Dame first half respects the fact that this team is playing out of themselves right now, and they're going to need another outlier like Cormac Ryan with his 3-point shooting barrage.
They will. Yeah. Can they get something close to that again? The big question. All right. Miami taking on Auburn here. Auburn 7.5 point favorites in this game. Total 144.5. I cashed an over with Auburn against Jacksonville State. Now, Jacksonville State didn't do as much for me as I thought, but we got 80 from Auburn, and I figured if we got 80 from Auburn, the game would go over the total. It did, 80-61 yesterday. We'll see if, but I lean over here because I'll say this about Miami: they're actually a better offensive team than defensive team. Now, yesterday you wouldn't know that because I thought their defense was very good against USC in that victory, especially down the stretch. But overall, I think Miami is a better offensive team this year for the first time in years than they are at the other end for Jimmy Larinaga. I mean, when you've got that trio of guards that they have with Isaiah Wong and Charlie Moore and Cameron McGusty, that's a good trio to work with for Miami right now. And they're intriguing to me a little bit catching points here in this game because Auburn, it's at times still there's some head scratching basketball. Shot selection's not always, a great thing if you watch Auburn. Defensively, when they're locked in, they're as good as any, and then they go through these lulls and they go through these lapses. You can't afford that against a Miami team that can score here. So, yeah, I'm leaning over the total. I'm leaning underdog as well, Miami. And to Max's point about Notre Dame, yeah, I find with a lot of these teams that are maybe you worry about their gas tank level a little bit. All the more reason maybe to look at a first half, even with St. Peter's today or Notre Dame tomorrow. First half, because it's more likely that in the last 20 minutes of the game, the second half is when they're going to hit the wall and maybe the legs are going to start to peter out on them. What's your thoughts here, Max, with Miami Auburn? You're muted.
I think that with the ball screen action that you're going to get from Wong and McGusty, it's incredibly important for that to be defended and to be taken away from them if Auburn wants to blow them out. But I see this number being pretty much where it should be, considering the fact that this Auburn team does get off to some slow starts. We saw it once again yesterday, and I think that when you do that against a team like Miami, it can be a little difficult to come back. And I like the fact that this Miami team was able to persevere without Wong in the lineup at the end of the game, fouling out. It really showed good coaching. It showed true belief in the guys on the floor. And if Charlie Moore gets an opportunity or gets hot in this game against Auburn, probably going to be matched up with Zeb Jasper or Wendell Green. That could be the difference maker for Miami. I love Jordan Miller. I love Charlie Moore. One of those two guys got to be the outlier. Otherwise, Auburn may end up being able to beat them by 8 or more.
All right, we'll see how that one goes. Next up, Texas-Purdue. Pretty interesting game. Purdue 3.5 point favorites, 134. We've got the long-term wizardry of Chris Beard in the NCAA tournament as he looks to take, this time Texas, not Texas Tech, on a deep run in the NCAA tournament against a Purdue team that, that's the only thing that's holding me back here on taking Purdue. I lean Purdue is the track record of Beard in the tournament. It's outstanding, especially with him catching points. I mean, it's tough to go against that, but I keep coming back to the fact that I believe Purdue's better than Texas. I do. I think there's more. I think Zach Edey's going to be a problem for Texas. I think he's the kind of guy that can look. Texas defensively, we know they can be capable, and they did what they had to do against Virginia Tech. But I think the one thing is there's no Zach Edey on Virginia Tech. There's going to be a guy that's going to absolutely be a game changer. And the way that guy's playing, and I'm not just singing his praises right now because he's Canadian. This guy is absolutely balling right now for Purdue. He's been absolutely a monster, a beast, whatever words you want to use. 22 points against Yale. They had no answers for him whatsoever. I think that's going to pose a threat here for Texas in this game. Texas was not playing good basketball prior to beating Virginia Tech in this tournament. Can they play it well here? That remains to be seen. Keep in mind, a lot of the long-term numbers will say Texas stinks in the NCAA tournament against the spread. They're actually 1-10 ATS, their last 11 NCAA tournament games. But guess what the 1-point spread cover was yesterday against Virginia Tech, and the first NCAA tournament game with Chris Beard. All those other NCAA tournament games were with other coaches. Shaka Smart, going back in the day, Rick Barnes. I mean, that's the thing. All those bad ETS numbers for Texas in the NCAA tournament were with other coaches, not with Chris Beard. This is the only thing I'm worried about is Beard having his team ready. He's so good in these tournament settings. We know that. But I got to think Purdue is just better. I think they are. I think, and look, defensively, that's the worry with Purdue. Their defense comes and goes. It was up and down at times during the season. But, boy, they brought it yesterday. And if they can bring anything like that defense today against Texas, which can sometimes struggle to score the ball consistently at times, I think Purdue can win in advance. Max, what do you think here? Texas, Purdue.
It's really so simple for me when I look at this matchup. I don't even need to look at numbers. I don't need to look at anything that happened in the past. All I got to say is, what is my judgment on Texas being able to hit shots? That was the difference yesterday. That was the cold-hearted difference. They hit shots for all 40 minutes. There were no sustained droughts. There was no falling behind. That is what Texas is going to need. Like, listen, being behind a couple buckets is one thing. Being behind double digits is another thing. And Texas being able to persevere and open up the second half as strongly as they did, that's the difference right there. Hit shots, Texas is going to win in advance. If they don't, we're going to see what we've seen all Big 12 season. Disappointment.
Yep. That's right. And that's the thing. I mean, they hit shots yesterday. You're right. They were outstanding offensively. I couldn't believe this was Texas on the offensive end of the basketball court. Yet a part of me, Max, also said, yeah, maybe I can believe it because Chris Beard raided the transfer portal. And when you bring in Marcus Carr and Timmy Allen and you have Courtney Ramey back from last year and you bring in Christian Bishop from Creighton, you're supposed to be able to score with those guys. You're supposed to be able to put the ball in the basket. And finally, they did that yesterday. But where the fuck was that in the Big 12 season for the most part? So the question's going to be, can they do it here against Purdue? That remains to be seen. I don't think they can contain Edey. I don't think many teams can, but I'm just so impressed with the way he's playing. You got and look, Ivy can play better than he did against Yale, and that's the scary part. Stefanovic, you got to worry about him shooting from long distance for Purdue. This is a great basketball game, but I still think Purdue's better. I'm going to dare Texas to shoot good again, 2 games in a row, which has not always happened this year. We'll have to wait and see on that. Connor, Mac, what do you think here? Texas, Purdue.
Yeah, Max kind of said it all, and you did as well. I don't trust Texas, this team shooting it, and they shot it so well yesterday. But Purdue, what Purdue team do we get here defensively? The one that played on the road that was horrible, that I see got carved up, that at home played a lot better. But they could just outscore you and win this. I'm leery. I'd be leery laying the 3.5 with Purdue.
All right, good stuff. Next up, our final game. This is the final game for the round of 32, final game for Sunday as well. TCU and Arizona. The Wildcats, 9.5-point favorites, 143 the total in this one. Look, Kirk Kriisa obviously missing time with the ankle injury, and you'd think it's going to show up at some point. Hasn't really for Arizona, at least not last night. It was still a terrific offensive night, 33-60 shooting for Tommy Lloyd's Arizona Wildcats. Terrific performances from the Canadian. Once again, was outstanding from Montreal. Benedict Mathurin. Absolutely terrific performance from him. Dallin Terry, 16 points. Christian Coloco, 17. Azuolas Tubelis, 13 points. And, they got the pace they wanted. They got the big lead early, and they pretty much cruised from that point. That never felt like a game that Wright State was really in it last night against Arizona. I'm not going against Arizona. Now, I know Arizona didn't cover against Wright State, but again, they were laying a mammoth number. They're laying a more reasonable number here. TCU's playing good. I don't want to sell them short, but Seton Hall, they quit. They laid down in that game. Seton Hall was a mess down the stretch. I mean, they didn't have Bryce Aiken. They had some injuries. They had some key players out. Seton Hall was just ready to go home. I think they were ready to call it a season. They certainly played like it last night against TCU. No, there's no way I'm fading Arizona. This is my national championship pick. I don't give 2 shits about how my bracket does. But in my bracket that I filled out on Wednesday, I made Arizona my national champion. I believe in this team that much. And I think they win and they probably cover here. I don't know if I'll lay the 9.5, but I will look at an Arizona team total. There's no question about that in this game. We'll see what it's at, but I think the team total for Arizona is the way I'm going to go here. I certainly wouldn't talk anyone out of a full game over with this group either, especially when the total is only 143. So Arizona team total, full game over probably would be what I'm looking at here. Connor Mack, TCU, Arizona.
Yeah, I wanted this higher. I think it's kind of how Arizona played and how TCU just beat down Seton Hall. I wanted like 11.5 here. But this TCU team, you got to give them a little bit of credit.
Yep.
This Kansas team that's so red hot. I know they beat them in the conference, but before that, in the tourney, they beat them, then went back and just lost by 4. I think they're tough. Like I said, I wanted doubles here. It's close. I kind of lean to the points with TCU. I think they could keep it close, even though Arizona probably ends up winning.
Yeah, they have a terrific guard in Mike Miles, no question. And he's played great down the stretch for the Horned Frogs. Jamie Dixon's a pretty solid coach. I mean, it's not a pushover game for Arizona, but I just think they got too much firepower for TCU. That's my concern. Max, any thoughts here? Preliminary thoughts on TCU, Arizona?
I'll say this. Emmanuel Miller is a beast. He better fuck with his eyes open. Mike Miles better bring that 3-point shooting touch for 40 minutes and not 20, because if they don't, they'll be slurping some icy cold cock soup, courtesy of the future conference, national, regional, whatever you want to call it. The March Madness fucking winners, the Arizona Wildcats, who will beat, hopefully, Gonzaga.
There we go. Arizona. So there you go from Max looking at thinking Arizona will get past TCU as well. All right. Before we get to best bets and wrap up the show, which we'll do in about 5 minutes or so, Max, we're going to get your thoughts on the other tournaments, the non-NCAA tournament games, the CBI, the NIT, the Basketball Classic, and anything else in between. Because we got a bunch of games today in the NIT. We'll throw the NIT at you first. Oregon, Texas A&M 4-point favorites, 142 the total. VCU, Wake Forest 4.5-point favorites, 144 the total. Northern Iowa, BYU 6-point favorites, 149 the total. This is the trio of games that I actually have an interest in terms of one game, and I've already bet it. I'm taking the points with Northern Iowa. I don't think they're a team to be fucked with right now. Their offense is rolling at the moment. It was terrific all season. I don't trust BYU laying points. I know Provo can be a tough place to travel and play, but who cares? It's a minor tournament. Is the place really going to be jumping that much for this game? I like Northern Iowa to be right in that game, maybe even pull the upset against BYU. Max, what are your thoughts on the NIT?
Yeah, so I'm on the Oregon, Texas A&M first half under. I took Oregon +5. I think that this is a spot where we're going to get Oregon maybe play a little defense early on. I do think that the scoring will pick up in the second half, so that's what I'm going to be doing there. With VCU and Wake Forest, I think that Wake Forest is going to fucking thump VCU. I like VCU's defense. I do think that they can get it their pace and tempo style of game, but at the end of the day, with Alondas Williams and the way that he creates offense for himself, the way that he comes off screens, the way that he is able to freaking run the pick and roll with Jake LaRavia is the difference today. Listen, it's not a sharp pick by any stretch, but I just think Wake Forest, from power ranking perspective, over this VCU team, they need a good performance from a guy like Jaden Nunn to really make me freaking regret saying what I just said. I agree with you when it comes to Northern Iowa. I'm very interested in the first half under in this game. BYU's got to keep Northern Iowa off the 3-point line, but that is easier said than done. Now, Northern Iowa has had some trouble scoring inside the perimeter, so we'll be on them to be able to take advantage of those high percentage looks that they get and have to make them. Purdue, Fort Wayne, not IPFW. Do not believe your books. It is really aggravating when you guys do that. It's my fucking pet peeve. I think that Purdue Fort Wayne has value as a first half dog. I think that Purdue Fort Wayne has value as a 10-point dog. They have a good guard trio. They don't get on the offensive glass. That is my one issue with them, but you're not going to score a bunch of transition buckets. I think both these teams are willing and able to slow this game down, and we do see this game stay under first half and full game. UNC Asheville versus Stephen F. Austin's a real interesting matchup. I think that Asheville is one of the hardest teams to figure out what you're going to get from them on the road, but you do have a very versatile X factor in Drew Pember. And if he's able to hit some threes and be able to work on the baselines and score close to the bucket, then Asheville's going to have a chance. But with Gavin Kensmo on the other side and the way that David Calcareys and Calvin Solomon can contribute offensively, it's a difficult place and task to go in. I would lean towards the dog, but it's not my favorite spot at all. I think with this tournament being played in Daytona Beach, I do think that first half unders are going to have some value just because of sight lines and non-familiarity. Now, California Baptist in Middle Tennessee, that's a spot where I am definitely looking at Middle Tennessee first half as long as I can get 3 or better. And with Middle Tennessee, the big question is going to be with them, is Josh Jefferson in the game? And if he isn't in the game, you can anticipate this team trying to play a little more defense and a little less tempo. So starting lineups will be very important to figure out when it comes to the California Baptist Middle Tennessee game. Rice in Ohio, this number has been up and down. I've seen it as low as 147 and as high as 151. I played my number, and I'm playing the under in this game. I think that Ohio is going to be able to really limit Rice's versatility on the perimeter, taking away some of their better three-point looks while having the big men and size to really take away anything Max Fiedler wants to do on the low block. Obviously, with Carl Pierre and his guarding on the perimeter defensively, Ohio's going to have to contend with that, and specifically Mark Sears, but I do think that Ohio ends up winning this game convincingly. Now, going to the basketball classic, Ian, New Orleans and Portland's a really fantastic matchup, but the best of the number is long gone. This number opened up at 151.5. It's up to 156. I think that the over definitely had value on opener. Now you just have to make your decision for yourself. Is it worth taking the ass end of the line? And when it comes to the spread, I would have to be looking at New Orleans. Western Illinois and UTEP. This is a spot where I do think Western Illinois is going to have to show me in the first half that they can compete, because with UTEP having Kennedy back in the lineup, now they have 3 capable freaking offensive pieces, and it is a tough building to go into with no familiarity for UTEP. I do think that 145.5 is a little too high for me. The number is rising, so I would actually hold off and wait right before game to bet that total at 3 p.m. Eastern.
There you go. What a rundown. CBI, CIT, there's no CIT. CBI, Basketball Classic, and NIT from Maxwell Smart. Like I say, I'm sticking to my one play. It's the one play I zoned in on because I took them against St. Louis as well earlier this week, and that's Northern Iowa, the Panthers, plus the points against BYU. That's the one that I like. Connor, Mac, did you have any leans, opinions, bets on these 3 tournaments?
Yeah, I like VCU. The problem is I got 5. There's 4.5s now, basically everywhere. I think that game is close. VCU's played pretty well on the road. I think that's too many there. I agree. Northern Iowa's just played well on the road all year long, and they just keep shooting it well. If they shoot it again, yeah, they'll be close. So I lean with the points in that one. Going down here, I think Ohio wins. I don't know if I want to go first half full game, how I want to do it, but for me, it's Ohio over Rice there. And that's about it. I kind of lean UTEP as well. I don't know if I play that, but I think they take care of business against Western Illinois.
All right, there we go. Great show. I mean, the Saturday NCAA tournament, Sunday NCAA tournament, we broke down every game on the board for the NCAA tournament. We gave you the postseason tournaments as well. Thanks to everyone for joining us on a Saturday morning. As usual, 238 live viewers. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that. Hit a thumbs up. It's helps us out immensely, and we appreciate it very much. The channel appreciates it very much as well. Great stuff with Connor and with Max. We've got best bets coming up to wrap up the show, and that's coming up right after this. Southtown 101 when you're in San Antonio, Texas, and a lot of us will be there later this week. Can't believe it's Thursday this week. Well, the event of the year, Pubapalooza, begins. A live music, great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Southtown 101. Manscaped, promo code PubSports. 20% off your purchase, Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product with promo code PubSports. MyBookie.ag, NBA, college basketball, March Madness, NHL, UFC, and more. Sign up for an account. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit. MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, best bets to wrap up Saturday net profit college basketball show here on Pub Sports Radio. Remember, we got UFC live stream as well, I believe, later tonight. So make sure you check that out as well here on Pub Sports Radio. Conor, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
I'll let Max go first here.
All right, Max, best bet.
Yeah, I'm going with Purdue Fort Wayne, not IPFW for the millionth time. Purdue Fort Wayne, full fucking game. You can get 10.5 or 10 right now. I got two different numbers on the books I'm using. And I will say this, keep in mind there are some injury issues for Murray State. Carter Collins may not play because of the ankle, and Dante will play for Oregon today. Will Richardson is again out. So just keep that in mind.
There you go. Some injury notes in those games, but that's Purdue Fort Wayne. Think P.F. Chang's, the freaking food chain in the United States when you're pronouncing it. P.F. Chang. It's not IPF Chang. It's just P.F. Chang. Yeah, there you go. And then you'll get it right all the time when you think of that. Yeah. PFW plus 10 against Drake. Best bet for Maxwell Smart. All right, Conor Mack, best bet.
I think you got to take it. That news has changed it. A lot of them are switching right now to 8.5, but there's a few 9s. I'm taking St. Peter's. Think it's too many points. Murray State might win, but grab a 9 if you can. I think they keep the game close one more time. They might not win like they did against Kentucky, but I think it's competitive with the Peacocks today.
I agree. St. Peter's, look, their offense is not going to shoot probably like it did against Kentucky. And that may keep them from getting over the hump and winning again, but their defense is good enough to keep them within 9 points. I agree. St. Peter's plus 9 against Murray State. Best bet for Conor Mack. My best bet's going to be the late game. Gonzaga, Memphis. We're going over the total, 154.5. I think it's going to be a track meet. Both teams are going to push pace. Memphis can't always hang on to the basketball. And man, if you're going to turn the ball over against Gonzaga, it's going to speed the game up even more and fuel that Gonzaga transition game, which is as lethal and deadly as any team in the country. And it should result in even more points and easier baskets. So a lot of points, I think, in that one. Memphis, Gonzaga, over 154.5 for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Net Profit College Basketball Show for a Saturday. For Conor Mack, Maxwell Smart, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the NCAA tournament. Enjoy the madness. Cash some tickets. Good luck. And we'll Max and Conor will be back Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern with Net Profit. And I'll be back Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern with NBA Pub Up to start a new week right here on Pub Sports Radio.